Ma'am, that it would need some enabling legislation or perhaps amending some of our old laws, but we defer both maybe to the more technical expertise of the Dole, who is maybe the lead in domestic implementation of the convention.
Yes, that's right. This has to be translated into municipal law. From my understanding, we have several laws already that are related. RA 9262, Anti-Violence Against Women and Children, 7877 also impinges upon this treaty, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, 9710, the Magna Carta of Women, 10361, Domestic Workers Act, the 11166, Prohibition of Discrimination on HIV, and 11210, the Prohibition of Discrimination Against Female Employees on account of their maternity leave, 11313, the Safe Spaces Act, and of course, we revert to Articles 259 and 260 of the Labor Code of the Philippines. So perhaps we should consolidate all these existing laws with whatever future legislation will be necessitated. Yes, Senator Risa, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To add to what the Madam Chair was saying by way of follow-up to the input of the Department of Foreign Affairs, in terms of next steps after the concurrence in the ratification, based on the Dole Institute of Labor Studies gap analysis, the Philippines already has various laws and regulations related to addressing violence and harassment. However, there are still gaps which need to be addressed, such as the following: lack of conceptual and operational definition of violence and harassment in the world of work, which possibly contributes to inadequate understanding of its various forms and severity, and therefore the prevention of such acts and behaviors. Limited scope and coverage of existing laws, regulations, and practice to encompass all persons and situations associated with the world of work. Challenging enforcement of legal or regulatory framework, especially for workers in the informal economy and migrant workers, as the Majority Leader mentioned, and narrow approach to violence and harassment instead of treating it as an intersectional inequality issues. Therefore, after ratification, the recommendation is these gaps should be addressed in order to align our national policies and institutional mechanisms with C-190. And lastly, Madam Chair, there's also a next step suggested, that being the review of existing laws and regulations that explicitly or implicitly exclude non-regular workers for both the private and public sectors, as well as those in the informal economy, to include protection of all workers, regardless of employment status, as the Chair mentioned, meaning new hires, job orders, or contract of service, interns, contractual workers, and workers in the informal economy, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. So it is apparent that while we will quickly ratify ILO 190, we need enabling legislation. So I would also like to further inquire, what is the status of recommendation 206? It was appended and it's of great relevance to us given the big number of Filipinos working overseas. Is it an annex to ILO 190? If we concur with ILO 190, does it automatically also legally bind us to recommendation 206? May I have a legal opinion, please, from DOJ, DFA, para magawa ng paraan kung kinakailangan? Yes, Asik Garcia, would you have an opinion on this? And also DOJ, perhaps?
Thank you very
This
much.
was an annex that was appended thereafter, but it constitutes part and parcel of ILO 190. Is it automatically binding as well?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. What we understand